Good evening. We'll start the meeting. This is the Planning Commission's regular meeting for October 26, 2023. We're here at Farmington. We're here at Farmington Hills City Hall. I think we have roll call. I think we have all members present. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, Barry?
I move to approve the agenda as published.
Support. Second by John, moved by Barry, second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
We have an agenda. First item tonight is public hearing item. Staff, who we start with, the proponent or review?
We generally start with the proponent on a public hearing.
Okay, could the proponent come forward, introduce themselves, where they're from, who they represent? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Williams, and I'm with the Atlas Tower Group. We're based in Boulder, Colorado, but we have an international footprint, and we are working with, in this particular instance, T-Mobile as our primary anchor tenant on the proposed tower.
Very good. I should note that this involves site plan 52-4-2023. The location is 3691 Grand River Avenue. Proposal is construction of a cellular tower in a B3 general business zoning district. The action tonight of the Planning Commission is to make a recommendation to our City Council. Applicant Bill Williams, Territory Manager, Atlas Tower Group, owner, Motel Rainbow. Proceed.
Yes, sir. Might note one other important factor in this. We are actually working with T-Mobile to provide an alternate site for them. They are currently located on the smokestack at Farmington Junction. So that's 0.48 miles from this location, but because of some factors that I'm sure you're well aware of, this is an important move for them and to provide better service and get off of that particular structure. So in essence, we're not asking for proliferation or an additional tower in this area, additional antenna. We just want to replace that service with this tower.
Okay, very good. Questions from the proponent? Seeing none, John?
Yes, sir.
Is this just T-Mobile or?
No. While we worked in the beginning, in the initial stages, with an individual carrier initially, then we also invite and encourage the other carriers to get on board. We already have interest from AT&T for this particular location, and others will surely.
In particular, AT&T's first responder system?
Yes, and it's vital for them. I don't know if you look at this particular parcel on the map, if you scroll out from that, if you have the capacity of doing that, you'll see that the nearest tower to this location is over 2 miles away. And in this particular stretch of M5, there isn't a competing tower, is what we call that. So it's a very almost like a cellular desert right there at that point.
A lot of drop calls?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons that the carriers contact us, because they have data on the drop calls.
I noted that you were not allowed to put the barbed wire on the top. What are you doing as an alternate to secure this thing? Are you using cameras or alarms or something to?
We don't have cameras or alarms. There is a type of security that the property has. It will be, the fence will be up to the 6 feet tall, but, and we would be happy to put the barbed wire on it, but for aesthetics for the city, that's not allowed. So but we're open to something that we would need. Typically, we haven't had much malicious activity around our sites, nothing that we've had to respond to.
This is just a monopole, no guy wires, correct?
Yes.
And a fall zone?
Well, the fall zone typically is not calculated anymore because they're built to crumple.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of like the new cars versus the old cars. The new cars crumple. instead of,
It hasn't been determined if you need an FAA light on the top?
we do not have to have a light.
Okay. One thing I was asked, that access road that comes in off Freedom,
Yes,
you're not going to do anything to impede that, right?
don't have to change that at all.
Because the fire department, when the last time two fires or three fires at the motel, they've had to stretch from the gas station hydrant down Freedom and then through that back way to get in, so they don't want that impinged.
The only thing that we would do in the initial stage would be to trim back the overgrowth.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think that would be an advantage for the fire department.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Barry?
Pardon?
No, me.
Yes, oh, okay.
Thank you. You do understand that, I'm not opposed to this, but the fact is that you can't go to 120 unless you have a co-locator on your pole. Because
We have the potential of a co-location.
you have to have a co-locator to go 120.
Okay, all right.
So you are going to be telling us you're going to get a co-locator because you won't get 120 unless you have a co-locator.
We will have a co-locator, even if we have to give it away. We will have a co-locator.
Okay.
Thank you, Barry. Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, let's turn it over to staff for review. We have the review before we open the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Just to recap, the proposal before you for the public hearing is a 120-foot wireless tower with a 50 by 50 equipment enclosure that is fenced. This does require a public hearing both here and city council. We would just note, to be brief here this evening, a couple of the comments. There's just one note that you might have noticed under the site plan dimensional standards table. The side setback on the east side is required to be 30 feet. We've noted in the comments that it's 20, but we just wanted to clarify that's to the fence area. The tower is actually about 40 feet from the east lot line, and that is what the requirement is for the 30 feet. And then again, to confirm Commissioner Brickner's point, that 120 feet with up to 4 co-location opportunities is the requirement for that. Just another note about the fence around the enclosure is not proposed to be topped with barbed wire. It's just a regular fence, which is good. And the tower is in the side yard that does not abut the street. There's no equipment building currently proposed. The shelters will be constructed by the folks that go on that tower. And other than that, the other standards are met in terms of the design of it being a monopole, the vegetative screening, and the decommissioning agreement has been provided.
Good, thank you. Questions for our consultant? Barry,
Well, I actually have a question for the city attorney.
that works.
If I bring a motion to grant this, can we put can we make as a part of the granting that it's 100 foot, and if the less they have a co-locator, then it can go to 120 feet because they can't have one if they're a single use. They can only go 100 foot at single use.
Through the chair, I wouldn't have a problem with that. We would do that anyways internally, but they're proposing 120 with a co-locator, but
So,
you can, yes.
yeah, if they don't get a co-locator, they're not, that would be against our ordinance.
Correct.
So but we don't require necessarily them to evidence a contract to us at the time.
No.
They're just, all they have to do is represent they're going to be co-locating.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll treat them like we treat everybody else, right?
No, but that, our ordinance only allows for going to 120 is if they have a co-locator. It's set max is 100 feet, and if they have a co-locator, they can go up to 120, and they could have up to 4, they could have up to 4 other people on there, they still can only go to 120.
Right. So, Bill, you've said you're going to co-locate?
Yes, we are already in talks with AT&T for the co-location. Yes.
So for the record, he just said he's going to co-locate, so that
Right.
allows him 120. Okay, very good.
All right.
Are you good, Barry?
Yeah, well, if there's no other questions, I'll bring a motion.
No, public hearing. Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's do the public hearing first. Okay, any more questions from commission? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody interested in the construction of this monopole, please come forward and give your name and address and your comments relative to the proposal. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Back to the commission. I'll entertain a motion. Barry.
I move to recommend to the City Council that site plan 52-4-2023 dated April 14th, 2023, submitted by Atlas Tower Group, Bill Williams, Territory Manager, be approved because it appears to meet all applicable requirements of the zoning chapter. And I will add to this that he's approved for 100-foot for a sole location and 120 feet for multiple locations.
Moved by Barry, supported by John. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes. It goes on now to City Council, this recommendation, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and it'll be scheduled some future date. We don't have any date for the public at this point.
We don't have a date set in stone just yet. We'll have to look at our noticing requirements and everything else and determine that.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, the next item is a regular meeting business item. This is an item that we've seen the last couple of months. In August meeting and also in our September meeting was a follow-up meeting with the developer and the public. It is item Plan Unit Development 1 of 2023. Location is 29905 and 29915 and 29845 13-mile road. The proposal is construction of a multiple family housing in an RA1 one-family residential district. This is also a recommendation to City Council. Martin Mana is the applicant, and the owner is the Chaldean Community Foundation. So through the last couple of months, the Planning Commission has received quite a bit of information from the proponent and the neighbors in the area. And we also have received letters and correspondence from folks with opinions for and against this proposal. So at this point, I would hope the Planning Commission has had sufficient time to think about what they've heard, what we've received, the materials. Now it's my hope tonight is that we'll be able to move this forward in one way or another to the City Council with a recommendation. So with that comment, Jill, I'll ask you to do like a 1-minute overview, 30,000-foot look down of what's proposed and kind of the quick process.
I can do it
and
very
the next
quickly.
step. Okay, thank you.
Just to recap where we've been, the first time this was heard by the Planning Commission was June 15th, where you had made a determination of preliminary qualification of the plan unit development. Again, for the members of the public that are here, in case you haven't been with us in the other times that we've discussed this, a plan unit development is a tool that can be used by an applicant, a developer, and the city to allow for a development that doesn't quite fit into any other district or couldn't otherwise be permitted in a property, but that does achieve some of the goals of the community. And it trades off some of the flexibility of zoning ordinance standards for some other benefits that the city will gain. There is a legal and binding agreement between then the city and the developer once a plan unit development is approved that requires the standards and the things that the city agrees to, should that happen, in this document. So that's just the quick reminder of that. There was a public hearing held on August 17th, continuing discussion with the Planning Commission on September 21st. Again, the project is 100 units, 61 bedroom and 42 bedroom units with a density that's consistent with the RC3 district in the zoning ordinance. The relief from the zoning standards include 3 of them. One is permitting multiple family residential at an RC3 density in the single-family district, permitting a reduction in parking from 200 spaces to 169, and additional building height for 30 feet, 5.5 inches versus 30 feet. And that's the very, very fast version, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions for our consultant? So I'd also like to add that we've had the public hearing. We also took questions last month as well, so we've had extensive discussion with the public as well as with the developer. My sense is we've had a very fair process, open process, transparent process, and we've attempted to keep the public aware of where this is at, and as a result, I think we have a good turnout tonight as a result of that openness and transparency. So With that, turn to my fellow commissioners, comments, discussions, which hopefully will lead to some sort of motion.
Last meeting, you indicated you were going to let the public speak tonight.
Yes, I did, but let me have a discussion here with the Planning Commission, and I'll entertain that promise that I made last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Blitzman. Go ahead, Mr.
Well, the interesting thing at the end of our last, our planning meeting, or study session, it was brought to our attention the feasibility of reducing the size of 2 of the units. And so are we able to talk to the developer about if this is something that could be done? Because I was listening and I heard him say 2 of the units be, the person sitting over there, made the comment that maybe a couple of the units could be reduced in size to 2 stories, and which would probably be more acceptable to the public, and maybe even reducing the size of the buildings to 5 inches to making them 30 feet, so that would fit within the zoning ordinance. So can we ask, or even it's not a public
Well,
hearing?
let's do this. I would propose, given my previous comments, that I'd like the commission to narrow down the top 3 or 4 issues, focus on those. Let's have a discussion, and let's talk about how extensive we're going to open this up. Joe, do you want to say something?
Well, I will start with my number 1 issue.
Okay.
And that is that for there to be a reason for a PUD, I believe that dedicating open space in perpetuity as a buffer would enhance the transition buffer. Now, the last time, 2 meetings ago, I believe I made a motion or tried to put an amendment to have an 85-foot buffer. And I'm identifying my issue. My issue would be at least a 50-foot natural preserved area in line with the 3rd objective
Okay.
that can justify a PUD.
So, okay, so we got size of building, height of buildings, density, and now we got the buffer, dedication of land for buffer.
And I just want to say, I was the one person, you weren't here, but I actually went back there.
Right.
And I can see the nature that is there. And I believe that all of those trees are going to get cut down if you get a regular development. But if you preserve at least 50 feet of those trees,
Through the PUD process.
you're helping those folks.
Okay.
That's my issue.
Second item. Okay. Is there another item we want to talk about and focus our discussion? Could be anything, pros or cons. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is going against the master plan, which was more RA versus RC. And I think we're introducing that whole corridor pretty much is gonna end up being RC3 or RC at some point, because once you put it in the middle as RC, the other properties on the other side, they're no longer spot zones. Developers are gonna wanna put RC in those and rezone them. So I think this is going down a slope to make 13 mile all RC versus RA. And that's not what the master plan calls for. And this is a high density RC. So RC1 versus RC3 is a big difference as well. And I think it's dense. I agree with Joe's point that it's way too close to the property lines. A buffer would make more sense, but I also think it's too dense and doesn't fit in this area and doesn't fit with the master plan.
Okay, please. No demonstrations. We're just trying to have a discussion. We're trying to work for a very difficult question about the future of that area, how land's going to end up resulting, and so we're all trying to do our best job. So I know there's a lot of support. We all want to enforce our master plan, but our master plan also evolves and changes as time changes and as property develops. So let's keep an open mind to all the discussions we're having tonight. Okay, thank you, Steve. Could people silence their phones, please, so we can get through this? Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? So we've got the master plan, which is the crux of the issue, kind of, master plan, but we're also in the process of looking at our master plan and seeing if things are changing in our city. So it's an interesting time to have this proposal before us. We're looking at the PUD process as a process which gives us the greatest flexibility to deal with adjoining neighbors and making things more compatible rather than conventional zoning, which you basically have setbacks and you plop something down and you got what you got. And then we have the issue of density, which is always a major issue as it relates to height, number of units, and then everything that goes with that, the things that are talked about, traffic and all the ancillary issues you have with development. So those are three, to help us focus tonight. So anything else?
I guess just to talk about our current master plan development and how we are redoing the master plan. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think we'd be looking to rezone this or re-qualify this to be RC if it weren't for this project. I think if we were doing our normal master plan, we'd be keeping it RA of some nature. I don't think that we would be reevaluating this parcel to be something RC if it weren't for this specific proposal. So I think talking about our future master plan, and maybe it would match that, I mean, I know I wouldn't be thinking about changing this on the master plan, and if this doesn't pass, I don't think we're gonna be changing the master plan to be RC3 going in here. So I understand we're going through a master plan review and update, but I don't think that changing this from RA1 to RC3 would have been anything anyone would have considered as far as a future master plan.
John.
I'm in agreement with what Mr. Simpson said. on his points. Go ahead.
You have Danielle.
Yeah, Danielle.
Respectfully, I would like to remind the board that we did discuss this area in our upcoming master plan. We discussed how this area needs some sort of revitalization and whether it's going to be homes or mixed use, or we did discuss that this is an area that we needed to look at and that we needed to study along with another number of others. I don't believe that we came down to a conclusion that this was a hands-off area. That's all.
Okay. Nanji?
As far as I'm concerned, I do agree with Mr. Stinson as far as the location. I believe that it's a great idea, it's a great plan as far as having the affordability of homes. I just do not believe that the location is the right location for it.
Well said.
Jerry?
Well, I'm going to take the other side and say that the way that, if you go to either end of that stretch on 13 Mile between where the Baptist Manor is to the corner, you can see the multiple housing is going in there. Yes, you go to the corner, it's all condos. If you go to Baptist Manor, they're all smaller homes that won't be considered to be like condos or apartments. And in between, you have a bunch of houses that are no longer being used, and they're basically rotting on their spot. And I don't know that Farmington Hills is going to be a spot where we want to have a bunch of deteriorating homes. I do not see anybody building RA1 houses along 13 Mile Road there. And you have multiple on either side of it, and most likely, and I believe that that whole area, when we had talked about this too, is to be more dense population as opposed to keeping it RA1. No one's going to build one house over there in any of those singular lots. It's going to it's not affordable, and no one's going to want to live there. Because the people that own the houses now, they don't live there. So we have to we have to see what's going on, and if we looked at both ends of that strip, it's more dense. So I believe that the master plan should reflect the fact that if we leave it at RA1 on 13 Mile Road, it's just not sustainable. In order to have it look better or redevelop, it has to be something more with a little bit more density than that. So I disagree that we're going to keep it at RA1. And I do believe that RC is going to probably be what we'll end up doing in the end on the master plan. And in the master plan we're looking at is over 10 years old, and probably what they were looking at is probably 20 or 30 years old, and it's just not sustainable any longer because nothing is going in there. No one's building new houses there. I don't see anybody, and those properties have been up for sale for many years, and I don't see anybody jumping in and buying the properties to sustain an RA1. So we have to look elsewhere. And I actually happen to like what Mr. Manti said about maintaining a current buffer, a set buffer, and keeping the trees there to protect the homeowners that are along that edge. And that's, I believe, is something that's more sustainable than just saying, oh, no, we'll just leave it at RA1, because nothing's going to go in there, and that's not appropriate either.
Okay.
Call the question.
So, well, point of privilege for the chair, I did make the comment, whatever, I'd like to, if people who want to make a comment, public or the developer, I'm going to give 10 minutes to either side to make comments, to make a comment. It'll be back to us, so we're not going to take more than 20 minutes or less. Any additional comments you want to make in light of the comments you're hearing up here that you think would help us move the ball down the field. So I'm going to let the developer and the residents. Sir, I see your hand up. I'll get to you. Well, sir, we've had the public hearing. This is the end of it, or I'm not going to allow anything at all. We're going to end it.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
And I think we've met
I think you're going to need to do one or the other. You either allow the full comment or you don't have the public comment. We don't have the luxury of limiting the number of people here or saying only X number get to speak. So, it's okay if you want to have people speak, then everybody gets to speak.
There can be no limit.
You are not obligated to.
Right, yes.
Before you do,
Okay, so as I understand it, there's no limitation.
Yeah.
We've had the public hearing, that's what we're required to do. We had a public hearing, and then we had another meeting last month where we had public comment. Then I guess I'm not a man of my word. I'm not going to open it up to another public hearing. My sense was if people wanted to make a few comments and could agree to it, limit themselves. But if we can't, and I've got to open it all up again,
You would have to.
we're going to hear the same thing we heard before. So it's up to us now to make a decision. And to someone make a motion and for us to vote on it, okay?
So the one final thing.
Yep.
Member Brickner asked the question, can you talk to the developer about some sort of changes to the plan? And I think the answer to that is yes, and I'm bringing it up because I know at the last meeting, Member Manti made a motion that sort of tried to change the plan. And I guess before you start talking and making a motion, the developer's plan is the developer's plan. And you're making a recommendation on it the way it is. A recommendation that says the council, we recommend approval, but you got to change this, this, and this, the number of units and the setbacks is not helpful to council, because that's not the plan. If, however, the developer wants to get up here and say, hey, I've heard comments from members of the commission and the public, and we hereby offer to do X to the plan, that you can discuss and make part of a motion. You just can't say, we recommend approval, but change the buffers. So I throw that out there.
So I don't have an issue of opening the public comment if we have a discussion with the developer
The
directly.
developer, you can always talk to. It's the developer's plan. I know the public doesn't want to hear that, but the developer is permitted to talk to you if you want. So
Okay, so does any of the commissioners want to hear from the developer on a modification of the plan? Barry, what would you like to hear?
Yes,
Okay,
because we've heard certain things.
Okay,
and
so how many
it's
people-
different from what we got.
okay, so let's do this in a very democratic way. How many people want to hear from a developer regarding a modification plan, and how many don't want to hear? So how many wouldn't mind hearing modifications to the plan? 3, 4? Okay. Those who don't want to hear from the developer, how many? Raise your hand. Those who don't want to hear modification, any discussion of modification. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so no discussion regarding any modification to a plan.
But,
And
that said, if he wants to come back with new paperwork that we can react to, not something that's
yeah, that was,
at another time,
yeah, well,
he can refile, but no, not tonight.
right. We're only considering what the plan is before us.
No.
Right. Right. So we're not going to hear about the discussion about reduction in units and height of buildings. Yes, Barry?
The only comment I want to make is that when you're dealing with this type of a project, there's usually funding sources in the background that might just totally disappear if we push this thing off any further.
We know that. There's $10 million in the state of Michigan.
So we're basically saying that we can't have $10 million in the state of Michigan helping develop property in our city if we don't, because we just don't want to hear what else he might be willing to do. That's the question, so.
Well, for me, I think a larger issue, oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, they've had the opportunity to do that, though. We're on our, fourth, fifth meeting and discussion about it, so they haven't brought it previously.
They brought it up at our
Chair,
study session.
Can I, and I hesitate to do it, it is typical to allow the developer to talk anytime you're considering their plan. And if that helps a 5-4 consideration, it is normal for the developer to get a few minutes to remind you of what's going on. Just
I'll get direction from the planning commission. They've
It
heard
is,
enough.
it is your call.
They've heard it. Well, I'm
Absolutely.
hearing that they've heard enough.
Okay.
So I'm not, let's. Steve's got his hand up. Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion.
Make a motion.
I move to recommend to City Council that PUD Plan 1 of 2023, received June 19th, 2023, submitted by Martin Manna, be denied because the proposed development does not meet the applicable regulations of Section 34-3-20-1, because the development is not in accordance with the goals and objectives of the master plan for land use, which calls for single-family use of the property. The significant increase in density does not further the objectives of the zoning ordinance or the master plan for land use, and will not result in a development that promotes the public health, safety, and welfare, given the adjacency to existing single-family uses. And the proposed development will not be compatible with and will materially adversely impact adjacent single-family uses. And also, the proposed development does not clearly meet any of the objectives of Section 34-3-.20.E, because a dense multiple family use is not compatible with the existing or planned uses in the area and does not serve as an appropriate transition buffer to the existing single-family residential areas. The applicant has not established that the redevelopment of the property with permitted uses cannot be accomplished.
Support.
Okay. Moved by Steve, supported by John. Discussion,
I'll comment.
please. Joe.
The motion points out Section E, which is basically the rationale for using a PUD. And I find it hard to argue with what you put forth. However, my suggestion that there be a area set aside, open space preserved in perpetuity as a buffer is clearly one of the reasons, regardless of what is in our master plan, that could be used to justify voting for a PUD. I'm not going to support your motion, but I'm not sure I'm going to support any motion to approve it that doesn't include what I believe is a needed buffer.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Any other comments on the motion? From my standpoint, I think if realistically looking at 13 Mile Road and those lots in the area, that things are evolving. The expectation of single family there, my opinion, on the planning commission is unlikely. And that's something I think the planning commission in its entirety has been kind of debating and looking at that. Steve, you're correct. The master plan doesn't provide that allowance, anything other than single family, but I think certainly it's something that we have to think about. So this one was a very difficult decision for us and for me personally, because I think what Joe talks about in the use of the PUD is the correct tool. And I believe eventually, whether it's this application or future application, there will be some sort of compromise proposal that will go there. Single family will probably not be realized, just by the sheer fact that during good times and bad times, those properties have stayed vacant. The market hasn't moved them. And of course, we hear a lot of the things about traffic and crime and all those things. And a lot of times when we see development in our community, they are generally a major asset to the tax base, to city services, to enhancements, to improvements. We've seen it. I've seen it over 30 years I've been with the city. That's what happens, and many of the people who have been here since, have seen those improvements. So I will not be supporting the motion because I think in the future, I think there will be a proposal that will require consideration of the Planning Commission and looking at a revision to its master plan. It'll probably involve some sort of PUD structure of development that will provide rebirth to that area, but also provide a buffer to the existing residents and give them comfort that they have good neighbors. So for that reason, I cannot just take a hard, firm denial on it. I won't vote for the motion, but certainly in the future, I look forward to a motion that would embrace some of those goals.
Want to do a roll call?
No. All in favor of the motion to deny as stipulated by Steve and supported by John, say aye.
Aye.
So raise your hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the motion carries 6-3.
Just all in favor, nay, just raise your
All in
hands. just to
favor,
make sure.
say nay. Nays. And so this recommendation on this proposal, specific proposal, not a modified proposal, whatever, will go to City Council. Eric, at a future date, we don't know at this time?
I believe it's going to be the 27th of November is the
Okay,
target
so
date.
since we got a lot of folks here, I don't want to be kind of right. I want to be exactly right. So we have a list of,
Yeah, let me take a look here in my calendar.
Right.
Just to verify.
so the public knows, then this will go now, to our recommendation will go on to city council. They'll hear from the proponent, they'll have a public hearing, and they'll make a final decision on it, on the plan itself.
Yeah, the 27th is the date,
27th of,
November.
27th of November.
Mr.
Plus-
Chairman?
Plus you'll be notified.
Everybody within 300 feet will get notification. It'll be published in the paper, website, everywhere else, the same as a public hearing.
Please stay in touch, everybody, proponents and the residents, stay in touch with the planning office. Sir?
Thank you. Just compelled to put a few things on the record. If I may, I'll be specific to the comments that were made here today by the commissioners. Michael Sarafa, counsel to the Chaldean Community Foundation, Farmington Hills resident. One is, this is our 5th appearance of some sort before you. The answer to are we open to modifications is yes, but at the planning sessions, at the study sessions, we are not giving anything specific to try to modify. I'm not sure what the purpose of those meetings is, but I thought that's what it was about. Secondly, and I said this 2 meetings ago, the PUD process, which is in the city ordinance, and the master plan, which is the land use planning document for the city, are not mutually exclusive. The PUD process is used all over the country, including in Farmington Hills, to support good projects with modifications where they may not be allowed by a master plan or otherwise zoned city ordinances. It's been a very frustrating process. It's slightly broken, I would say. We've come before you multiple times. We're open to some of the recommendations that are being made. We were here when we were expecting to vote. This is the 3rd time now. We were in the room over there earlier today. Nothing about modifications was brought up to Mr. Haji, who spoke for you for a couple minutes. And I want to just say to you that I think to the counselor here that the process has been really, really terrible. And it hurts me to say that as a Farmington Hills taxpayer and resident, and also as a lawyer.
Thank you.
I guess, Mr. Chair, if I,
Hold,
No.
please, no comments, please.
if I could
Mr. Schultz.
just respond,
Mr. Schultz.
I don't think your process is broken at all. I think 3 meetings for a project of this import to the city is not exactly unusual. In fact, I might even say that's not a lot of meetings. Certainly compared to other communities, that's fewer than they might have had. Sir, this is not a back and forth.
I understand, but
I just.
when are we gonna, how do we have a chance? What part of the process do we have a chance to respond to commissioner recommendations? We have not
Okay,
had a
through-
chance to
through the
respond to
chair,
commissioner
please.
recommendations. That's all I'm saying, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that
This
leads
is
to
the
my.
3rd time we've heard from the gentleman here,
We
Mr. Monti,
have-
about his we have not had a chance to respond.
Sir, we got
I'm
your
asking
comment?
the architect behind me, can
Sir?
we do that? He doesn't know.
Sir,
We
have
didn't
your
ask him to
comments.
do it.
Sir, we have your comments. They're on the record. Got it? Hey.
That's
Please,
what I wanted
hey,
to.
please, stop. Hands down. We've made a recommendation. Thank you for your comments. We'll consider everything.
Second comment, really in anticipation of that, was we will be happy to talk to the applicant about how they can get back in front of you with a different plan.
Right.
This is typical. You voted on the plan that they asked you to vote on. If they want a different plan, we'll be happy to talk about that too.
To the extent we don't extend this conversation, I think that's understood. I thank you, Tom, for that. And then certainly we're open to other proposals. Okay, so we voted on this. The recommendation will go on to City Council for November 27th. Notifications as required by law will be sent out to folks. Keep in touch with the planning office. We'll move on to the next item. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Real page, company, no.
Dale, can't they change the plan before they go to city council? Don't they have the time?
No.
We'd have to look at it. We'd have to look at it. I don't think we're all in agreement.
It's gonna be probably a
Hope they bring a different proposal.
probably be a 4-3 vote the other way.
As you exit, please keep it down. We have other business we want to take care of. Thank you for coming. Next item is planned unit development 2, including site plan 67/9/2023.
Can we let the, clear?
I'll repeat it.
I'd like to clean the room.
But I want to, Steve, I want to keep it moving.
Okay.
I took a picture with me.
I was just gonna say I would email.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're still doing business.
Yeah, we gotta move on to our next item.
To have that.
In the comments. Thank you so much.
Can't talk about people's,
Doesn't matter who owns
it
it.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't, you can't talk. You can't discriminate. Can't speak on who, what background.
And this is item B, Plan Unit Development 2, 2023, including site plan 67/9/2023. Location is 30825 and 31361 Orchard Lake Road. The proposal is redevelopment of a shopping center in a B2 community business zoning district. Tonight, we're going to get just an overview, and it's set for public hearing.
Correct.
So we're going to hear briefly from the proponent and from our consultant, and then we'll set it for a public hearing. The applicant is Timothy Collier, and the owner is RPT Realty LP. Who are we starting with?
Let's hear that.
I'm not in the computer room.
Okay, staff?
Okay. Again, the plan unit development option under discussion here for the Hunter Square Shopping Center on the west side of Orchard Lake Road, south of 14 Mile. Looking for some reconfiguration, remodeling of the shopping center, which also would include a couple of outlot buildings. There's a few standards to which the applicant is seeking relief. Those relate to a front yard setback, a rear yard setback. There's also a lot split that has some conditions that would result in a 0-foot setback. There's a lot split that's also part of this discussion, and we can get into that. Allowing a drive-in business. And then there's a few deficiencies associated with the drive-in, including the waiting and the stacking lines, the use standards, the building setback for that as well. Also, some discussions for the Planning Commission on additional open space, additional loading spaces, the location of the off-hours loading spaces, the request for some additional sidewalks, some lighting concerns as well. So there's several items that are up for discussion or maybe incomplete by the applicant. Other things related to the lighting as well, including uniformity and the color temperature, even though that's not a standard of the ordinance, we just note that. And several administrative items that would be outstanding as well. Short summary. I can answer questions. I can continue if you'd like.
Very good.
That's the basic gist of it.
Thank you, Jill. Questions for Jill? Barry. Okay, you were just waving, Barry? Okay.
No, I was just waving at someone I know.
Okay, seeing none. Now, if we could have the proponent come up and just give a brief overview, project. Good evening. Name and address. And
Good evening.
who you represent.
Sorry. Dave Ortner, representing the applicant, RPT Realty, based out of Southfield, Michigan.
Dave, pull that mic up a little closer to you, yeah.
Is that better?
That's better. Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Could you say your last name again?
David Ortner, O-R-T-N-E-R.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And as discussed, we're here for redevelopment, partial redevelopment of Hunter Square located at Orchard Lake Road and 14 Mile. And I'm joined tonight by our civil engineer, Rachel Smith from PEA Group, and our architect, Mark Drain from Colliers. Here to answer any questions you guys might have with regard to the application of the letter.
Steve, for the proponent?
So I guess I've got two concerns about the plan that hopefully can be addressed. The first is the stacking of the drive-through. I'm not, you know, it didn't say how many cars were there, but in today's world, drive-throughs are getting more and more stacked. And I want to make sure that that's sufficient and without a doubt meeting our requirements for stacking. I know it's a PUD, so we can get around that. But for a drive-through, I don't think we want to have a waiver of stacking for a drive-through in that parking lot. I mean, the new Culver's up on Haggerty
Yeah,
is
or Chick-fil-A.
constantly backed up way into the normal traffic patterns. And there's other drive-throughs that are that way. There's a couple Tim Hortons that are that way. So I want to make sure that there's not going to be an a waiver for the stacking length. So, you know, just to take away for the next time, that's one thing I'll want to see is that we have enough stacking. And the other is I'm not real comfortable about having dumpsters facing Orchard Lake.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Any other preliminary comments before we go to a public hearing down the road? John?
David, are you tearing down everything from the Marvelous Marvin sign north?
So that's the intended plan, with the exception of the Old Navy.
My screen isn't working, that's one.
There's a, on the corner of 14 Mile and Orchard Lake, there's a multi-tenant building that has Old Navy in it as well as some other tenants. That building will remain, but everything from Marvelous Marvin's through what's currently the Marshall's Bed Bath will be taken
Marshalls or the Buffalo Wild Wings? Wild Wings too?
Buffalo, that entire southern portion of the development.
Okay. Thank you.
Joseph. Oh, Tanji and then Joseph.
Tanji, go.
Well, I just had a question. So Marvelous Marvin's no longer going to be there?
Not in that current location.
Pardon me?
Not in that current location, no.
He died.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, Joe.
Yeah, I'll begin by apologizing. I was having problems hearing earlier, especially with that beep, 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 beep sound that was driving me crazy. And I found it very hard to hear you. I'm sorry, Jill.
I'll speak up louder next time.
All right, but anyways, according to the consultant's report, it says, Planning Commission may wish to discuss whether additional open space should be provided to buffer all front yard parking areas. My attitude is, you guys own this huge piece of property. Whatever you want to do inside that property, you probably know better than we. When it comes to the stacking, for instance, all falls on your property. I worry about stacking when it falls into a street, okay? The claim in here that somehow or another these outbuildings are going to make walkability even better made me laugh, but I don't care. It's all on your property. But when it comes to the effects off your property, I do care. So I do want to tell you before the public meeting that I do care about this issue in terms of buffering and how close you are to the front. I care about these things, okay? And then it says something about the existing lighting. And as I recall reading this, there was even something about the lighting in the back might be too intensive, and that there's something precedent or whatever that says whenever there's a major change, we should look at that lighting. I care about lighting. And I care about the lighting effect that you have on those neighbors. I'm not gonna, I never say what I'm gonna do or not do. Okay, because you shouldn't do that, right, Tom?
That's correct.
That's right, because Tom has taught me well, all right? But if I were you, I would address the lighting facing the neighbors in the back, if I understand this correctly. And I think those are the only two things I had. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Good feedback. Anything else? Barry?
Yeah, I just had a question is, did you put the Myers, the small Myers, I would call it, it's a more grocery store than anything else, is that really going in there, or is that just as for show?
No, we're actively negotiating with Meyer.
Okay, so you don't have a contract with Myers yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, because I just saw that in there, I said, They're putting, is there a Myers going in there, or is Myers gonna try to go someplace else in our town? That was my major question. I mean, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to, I know you had a lot of losses as far as, some of the businesses went out of business. Some moved across the street to where where the Best Buy used to be. So, yes, a redo is obviously, necessary. Now, the four outbuildings, one of them does have a drive-through. Are they all supposed to be restaurants, or is it just one's a restaurant?
No, it would be a mix of, I mean, we don't have tenants in place for them yet, but it would be a mix of
I'm having a hard
sauce
time
goods.
hearing you.
I'm sorry. Apologize.
The acoustics aren't that bad, yes.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. It's planned to be a mix of tenants. There'll be fast casual restaurants, there could be soft goods, there could be services. That, the intent of including the drive-through is so that we can have that optionality and bring in a restaurant that we
Okay, so
require.
at least
But it's
one of
not-
them's going to be a restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drive-through, but the other three are just outbuildings.
Correct.
Okay. And
And with regard to Meyer, I can just tell you that we're in extensive and active lease negotiations with them, but it's largely contingent on our approvals.
No, the only comment I'm going to make is what you're proposing to do with the outbuildings is becoming very common in a lot I've been seeing in the suburbs in this side of town. And it doesn't bother me at all, and it's good use of the property, and I guess you're making up with parking by redoing those buildings and the buildings in the back. So, but the Buffalo Wild Wings is gonna be gone, or you're just gonna move it over?
I mean, that space will be gone, but they may move into a different space.
Oh, okay, you don't know where they're going?
We don't know yet, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I do. Dave?
John?
I'm sorry. Is this a trend now we're starting to see? I mean, when COVID came, my wife started buying everything from Amazon and still is, and not traveling out. So, I mean, are you telling us this is a wave coming back? People are going to shop in brick and mortar stores?
I mean, I can tell you as part of a retail landlord that I think retailers are adjusting to the current climate, and, they're getting more savvy in terms of how they're interacting with the internet marketplace, and, brick and mortar retail is not going away, it's just changing and evolving.
Yeah, I'm thrilled because Haggerty and Maple, and they built that whole 2 buildings in there now just from that, and there's another one at Maple and Haggerty further up at the corner too. I mean, I'm just starting to see this, like, I'm thrilled that you're doing this, but.
So am I.
Just curious. Yeah.
Joe?
Yes, you got a PUD here. I'm sorry, I forgot one other item. And that is, we need a reason to approve a PUD. You've cited 5 different reasons, thrown the kitchen sink at us, said you're preserving open space by putting a couple of trees down, things like that. In my dream world, and we'll see just how, in order to grant a PUD, we need to make the city a better place. One of the things I would like to see, and we've done before at Botsford, is ask you to consider what the bus stop's gonna look like there. A shelter for the bus riders that include many of your employees is an amenity that simply by adding that checks one of these boxes and makes it very defensible to grant you a PUD.
If I may interject for a minute, we already suggested to the applicant actually that they put in a bus stop at this location. That was something that we as staff suggested for this project on the front end. In actually kind of getting to the heart of that with SMART, we found out that the route is actually being discontinued. So there's really, I mean,
Which you warned us, and you didn't tell me which one about an hour ago. I was afraid it might be that. Given the fact that they are considering discontinuing it, but yet they're getting an extra $60 million a year, and it may come back, even just identifying where it would go
we could have a deferred requirement, for example, that at such time maybe that the route were
Would be
restored.
welcomed.
Right. I mean, that could be addressed at the PUD agreement stage. I think we
Okay,
could find a
yes.
way to deal
But
with
I
that.
thought you wanted us to
Okay,
address
Steve,
what we wanted
Steve,
to
then
see.
Barry.
Any ideas what's gonna happen with Marvelous Marvin? I mean,
Really,
I mean, that is a community,
historical.
that's something that I think the community has some pride in. And, I mean, I'd like to see if they can stay. I mean, it is an attraction to the community. If there's any possibility that they have some space in this, is a benefit to the community. Is there any, are they planning to shut down or move, or any ideas?
I honestly, I think it's too early to have that discussion with them, but we're certainly open to them
Yeah, I
remaining.
mean, having some ability for them to move, whether into this new building or into one of the others in the complex, would be a community benefit if there's a way to make that transition easy. They don't have a lot of money to move all that equipment. If, again, I think it's something the community values, so if there's something that can be done to help maintain that, whether in this building or an adjacent one, I think is a benefit. So just something to possibly throw out there.
No problem. And I'm sorry, Mr. Simpson, you had mentioned the stacking, and there was one other that you made earlier, and I was just,
Oh,
failed to jot it down.
the dumpster
Dumpsters,
facing
right.
Orchard Lake.
Thank you.
Then Barry, then Tanji.
Okay, when I was going through this, I was having one problem. It was trying to get it together. You were also talking about doing some lot splitting. You want to do a PUD and lot splitting. I really don't.
Well, I think the PUD allows for lot splitting, so it just provided additional flexibility, but it's not,
I mean, are you planning on selling off portions of this center?
no.
And I don't know why you're doing lot.
Joe, no, wait, I got people, wait, I'll get to you. Okay.
Okay.
Tanji.
No, there's not, and also, there would be cross-access easement agreements in place so that the center would function as a unified center, as it does today.
I just want to make sure it's understood that if you do go with the bus stop, that is, make sure that it's a covered bus stop and not just say a bus stop. That makes a difference. Also, as far as Marvelous Marvin, one consideration is to perhaps maybe turn it into a museum for the community. I don't know. I think that would be nice. And then if not, as far as I do think that benches would be nice to have for the community.
Joe?
I was going to explain, I should have asked earlier the consultant why, even though it says that we're looking at just a PUD, why there was a lot split review in our package for this property.
It had to do with the setbacks that would be remaining and
Because I believe that's
the
what,
observation of that and the,
Well, right, they're deviations that they're requiring, or that they're requesting as part of the PUD at the end of the day. So those deviations have to be accounted for, right? And that report is serving that purpose because they're going to have to ask you for those allowances.
So as part of the PUD, there would be a stipulation that lot splits be performed to accommodate their proposal.
As proposed in the.
Right, so we
PUD,
still go
right.
through a lot split process, even though it's a PUD, it just stipulates that the lot, Mr. Schultz, am I accurate, that lot splits are required for the PUD? Okay,
Well, it may be a separate approval along with the PUD, but the PUD should reflect what they're asking for.
part and parcel, complementary, that we're working together. Okay,
so as a bureaucrat, it wasn't advertised that we were going to talk about a lot split.
Through the chair?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
see my concern.
They're two separate determinations. Only one gets set for the public hearing, the other one is not. So
So, yeah, so any other
you're
things?
fine the way it's set up.
Yeah. Danielle?
So that big block in the center that's broken into four, That's where you're doing your demolition, correct?
Correct.
Is the intent to build something with multiple smaller stores in sittable area? Like,
The intent, if you can see the dashed lines, those are the proposed demise spaces for the
Of
different
how the
users.
spaces
Correct.
are
So there would
going
be, so this accounts for 4 different box users.
Okay, oh, thank you for scrolling down, because I was having difficulty imagining it.
There it is. There's Meyer
That
right
was
there.
my question. What was gonna go there? What stores, what restaurants?
I see,
Well, they got it.
okay.
Okay, that clears that up. Barry?
I move that the redevelopment of shopping center in B2 community business, plan unit development 2023, including site plan 67-9-2023 for the redevelopment of shopping center in B2 community business zoning district be set for public hearing.
Thank you.
November 16th?
Yeah.
City Council.
Moved by Barry, support by Kristen. Discussion on the motion?
Are we doing the 16th?
Yeah, I think the 16th would be the date in this case, yep.
Okay. Staff can get it ready?
Yeah.
Even though you'll be coming from the Hawk?
We can make it back from the Hawk in an hour.
Well, just in what's going on that day compared to getting out and getting over here in time.
And it's,
16th or to be announced?
no, it's going to be the 16th. We can make the noticing requirements.
Okey-doke, 16th of November. Public hearing, we got a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. You have a public hearing on 16th of November.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
coming in.
What do we do about the lot split, though? Is that separate?
That's separate. That's a separate thing. We're just setting a public hearing item.
Not
We'll
set for
get through
public
that.
hearing. It is not set for public hearing.
Right,
You
right.
just-
This is a separate item. We'll work through that. You guys are getting too bureaucratic. We're gonna back off of that bureaucratic thing. Okay. Item C under regular business, site plan 65-8-2023, plan unit development 3 of 2021. Location Northwestern Highway, address is 32680. Proposal is construction of a multifamily housing in a B2 community business and B3 general business zoning district. Action requested is approval of site plan. Applicant is HWH Holdings LLC, Robert Asmar, and owner as well, NWH Holdings LLC, Robert Asmar. Staff, consultant, you got a review?
You want me to go or you want to go?
Bill, you gonna go?
I can go.
Okay.
So as you recall, this site is currently zoned a mix of B2 and B3. It does have an approved plan unit development. The PUD agreement is still in the draft phase. This is the site plan for the PUD. That is largely consistent with the approved plan unit development. We would only note that that would be confirmed. So any site plan that you may approve tonight would be subject to just ensuring that it does match what is in the final PUD.
Okay, and Eric, you're gonna advance the screen for us? And at least take.
The recap of the project is a 217-unit apartment building around a courtyard commons. The ground floor of the building is indoor parking with living units on the floors above. There were 4 deviations that were approved through the PUD, and that would be the height, a maximum height of 55 feet, where 50 feet is permitted, an east side setback to residential. 52 feet was approved, where the requirement was 75 feet. And the density, 543 rooms permitted, a deviation of 313 rooms from the standards of the R3 district. Again, just to remind you that that's rooms, not units. And then finally, parking, 365 spaces where 436 would have been required. For the most part, this is extremely consistent with the PUD that you saw. None of the small changes that were present in the site plan have any impact on those deviations that you approved, and those are the same. And I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Joe. Very good. Questions for Joe? Seeing, yeah, Barry.
All right, some of the things that were popping up were, if she turns around and looks the other way. Some of the things that were popping up was, I don't know that they actually put on the plans, they were supposed to have like 72 spots to park bicycles. And I think that it didn't show up on the plans, and that was something that was previously agreed upon. And then there was these charging stations that didn't pop up on the plans. I mean, it's just a matter of, can we just, I guess, I will not ask her because she's not listening.
Yeah, she is.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay, it was pointed out in Mr. Tangeri's report that things that had been previously agreed to, like the bike rack for 72 bikes and charging stations for electronic cars, didn't appear on this plan. And was that something that you guys want on the plan, which makes sense? Or is that that's in the PUD and it's going to be part of the agreement anyway?
I think it's going to be part of the PUD because that was part of the original approval, so it'll have to show up on the site plan. So again, any approval that you provide would need to be consistent with the development agreement as it's finally prepared.
But the site plan really pretty much just mirrors what was on the previous, when we did the PUD.
Correct.
So it's not really changing. The height, obviously the height came
All
down
those
from
things
69 feet to 50 feet with a 5-foot parapet.
Right.
And, but these other things were also discussed at the time, and they should be part of the plan.
They should be part of the final site plan, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jill? Okay. John?
I have for the proponents, so
Okay.
I'm going to listen.
Okay, we'll get to you. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Jim Butler with PEA Group. Address is 1849 Pond Run, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326. Here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Bob Asmar. I do have a slight presentation. I know some of the members that are on this commission now weren't on the commission when we initially stepped forward for the PUD qualification and the determination. So I just want to kind of run through that if that's okay. The project is 5.53 acres. As Jill had pointed out, we are proposing a 4-story, 217-unit luxury apartment. The unit mixes are 112 one-bedroom units, 101 two-bedroom units, and there are 4 3-bedroom units. The building height that we're proposing is 55 feet. The number of parking spaces as provided is 365, and 364 of those spaces are located underneath the building. The building itself, again, 4 stories, 55 feet, parking, again, located in and around the building with 264 spaces underneath the building. The building materials, quarried stone, glass, batten board siding. The units all have balconies which have glass rails. If you look at that image that's on the screen right now, you'll see the large courtyard on the inside. So all the apartments either look outside to the surroundings or inside to the courtyards. These are some images of the building. The one to the top is from Northwestern Highway, and the one to the down and to the left is along the adjacent property line to the east. With those are the adjacent condominiums to the east. These are a couple images of the first one to the left is the underground parking. And the second is the courtyard, which is in the first floor. This is a typical floor plan of the building with the mid-unit mixes. So there are 4 stories, the parking being on the lower level, and then 4 stories above. The amenities for the overall site, it'll have a state-of-the-art clubhouse, landscape plaza with pool on that first floor. Strength and fitness center, food and packaging delivery accommodations, rideshare accommodations, bike storage, EV charging stations, professionally managed full-time with a full-time team and concierge service available. The units themselves will have indoor garage parking with multiple points of access in and around the building. Stainless steel appliances, windows with balconies, washer and dryer inside, smart building controls, solid surface countertops, and wood-styled flooring. Jill pointed out the deviations that were granted for this project. There were 4, one being the height of 55 feet, which is a 5-foot deviation. Along the east side to the apartments or the condominiums to the east, we were granted a deviation of 22.5 feet for setback. The density, we were granted a room density deviation of 313 rooms. And then parking, we were required to have 436 per the ordinance. We are providing 365. That's a deviation of 71 spaces. Going into the comments that we received from both planning and engineering, the art and the bus shelter. This plan does show an art area and the bus shelter area at the southeast corner along Northwestern Highway frontage, kind of in that triangular shaped area. The plan is for the art. Obviously, art's subjective, and what we're planning on doing is commissioning a local artist to create something for that area once the building is developed. And then the bus configuration, or the bus shelter, we need to get with SMART and talk to them. We're proposing an enclosed shelter for that area. Floor plans, we do have developed unit floor plans for it. They're in our revised packet. Bike and EV parking, we are providing bike storage inside the building, and then we will be showing, which are on the revised plans, the additional exterior bike parking and racks. EV stations will be provided within the parking area. Lighting, we have created a lighting plan for the project, and it is in compliance with the city's ordinance. Landscaping, as noted in Giffords-Webster's letter, along Northwestern Highway, we don't have a lot of landscaping. Our proposal is to add some more shrubberies along there. The problem that we have, there's some existing utility lines, storm and water and sanitary, that are in that area. So we have some areas where we could potentially put some trees, but the idea is to put a hedge to block that parking. Engineering from stormwater standpoint, we will be having an underground detention system that will be designed in accordance with the city's adopted standards, which are the Oakland County standards. That'll include a pre-treatment device pursuant to their requirements. We did complete a traffic study. Collier's Engineering and Design has completed that. It's been submitted. It has not been reviewed by the city. The result of that is there is no improvements recommended on the adjacent roadways for the project. Fire department, we received their comments. They were recommending approval. This is and hopefully I can get this to work. Probably not. This was meant to be the flyover, and I can't get it to work, but it's a 360-degree flyover. This is an image from Northwestern Highway. You see the parking in front, the 4-story building, and interior to that, you see the courtyard. In the back left is the self-storage, the public storage. In the distance behind that is the senior facility, which was a part of the other PUD that was approved for this project. All access for this site will come from Northwestern Highway. There is a gate that separates, that goes between the self-storage and the senior living. That road does go out to 14 Mile Road, but the gate is there and closed, and it's there for fire protection purposes. And it's for access. So with that, you have any questions?
Yes.
Certainly happy to answer.
3 hours ago, the gate that separates you just talked about was pinned open and wired to the stop sign, and the other one was flung up. The other gate, emergency access only gate, was flung up and blocked by an orange cone. So I have very much concern about access because it's a very tight site, as you know. The Edison line that goes in front, you cannot build between the Edison line and Northwestern, is that correct?
We are going to relocate that line. We are in discussions with Edison.
That high tension, where are you going to move it to? Underground?
We probably most likely either underground or run along the frontage.
Do you own then all the way up to the sidewalk on Northwestern then?
Yes.
So can you put your construction equipment and your trailer in there and all the parking for all your employees?
Say that again.
It's a tight site. You cannot park in that street that goes around to your warehouse storage. You cannot park in that street that goes around to Anthology because it's a fire department access. Again, I just drove it 3 hours ago. Where are you gonna put all the workers that come and park? Where are you gonna take all the deliveries of all the supplies that you're constructing with? Where are you gonna have the construction trailer? That's why I'm asking, because it's just so tight.
Haven't thought about the logistics of the construction trailer at this point. I know the site was tight when we did both the private storage, the public storage, and the senior living. We're gonna have to make accommodations for that on site. It'll have to be staged.
You own right up to about the Nibble place, or what it's called next door, that
The-
commercial place? You own that tree line there, the brush line is yours, right?
The brush line to the east?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's some in there. Because, I mean, fire department's averaging about a trip a day into Anthology, just so you know. And the nearest station to comes up more Middle Belt from Northwest and up Northwestern. So they typically are gonna cut through, I believe, I've not been on the right, but that is becoming a very busy place for seniors with medical emergencies. So I mean, I can see the cement truck sitting there and blocking it. I mean, you guys are gonna have to be really careful when you go to build this place.
Yeah, I'm sure the fire department will have very tight scrutiny.
Oh, well, I'm sure they'll have their ticket book out if it comes to that, but that was one question. In the middle is a pool and lounge. How do you get lawnmowers into that?
What?
Lawnmower. How do you get a lawnmower in there to deal with that?
That's gonna be hardscaped, grass, artificial turf, things like that.
When somebody has a medical emergency at the pool, how did the fire department get in there from the outside for the rig that's parked next to the building? How do they get access? If you've got an emergency at the pool, how do you get into that building? On the ground floor with a stretcher?
Well, you go through the ground floor, through the elevator.
Yeah, there's
There's elevators.
opening that you can go directly from the parking lot into this courtyard?
You can go from the parking lot up through the elevator, out through the door.
Out. Okay, that's not what I was looking for, but okay, that's.
There's a direct access from the.
Yeah,
from
in other
the
words,
garage to the
you pull an
courtyard.
ambulance
No.
up there between your warehouse and your apartment there in that parking, whatever that is there. Is there a way to get a stretcher and a crew in to rescue somebody that's in that pool?
You'd have to take the elevator up, go through the corridor out to the pool.
Ooh, okay, all right, thank you.
Joe?
I wanted to talk about bicycle parking. I just wanted to let you know that I think there was a slight disconnect. It's not a stopper, but the vision for the bicycles parking was to have it indoors as an amenity for your residents, because you're going to find that bicycle theft's a big thing, and everybody's going to, and we expect young professionals here. We expect young professionals who be riding bikes in the area, and they'll be taking their fancy bikes upstairs into their apartments because you're not leaving them secure parking indoors downstairs when you say you're going to put the 70 parking spots outside. The idea was to have them inside, just to let you know.
Yeah,
It's
and there
not
are-
a stopper.
There's opportunities for storage in that basement.
Right.
Rooms for bikes.
Right. But otherwise, the elevator gets filled with bicycles and stuff like that, and it's, just seemed to be a nicer fix.
Okay, thanks, Joe. More questions? Opponent? Okay. Okay, what do we want to do?
We don't have a cheat sheet.
You have a motion in front of you.
We don't have any motions today.
No, there's.
I move that site plan 65-8-2023 dated 2018-2023, submitted by NWH Holdings LLC, be approved because it appears to meet all applicable requirements of the zoning chapter, subject to the following conditions. The outstanding items identified by Giffords Webster's September 14th, 2023 review shall be addressed by the applicant to the satisfaction of the Planning Community Development Department.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Barry just edged out, Taji. Moved by Steve, supported by Barry, to approve the plan with conditions and referencing a letter from our consultant. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. Plan approved.
Thank you very much. It was a long process, but I think we ended up with a very good project.
Thanks for coming in.
What century are you planning on building this? Is it be as fast as the people across the street that are building it?
I think he will, yes. That's the intent.
Oh, okay. It'll be a
Thank you.
race.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, you got a dumpster right there against the east lot line? Right there. This is dumpster. How do you expect a dumpster to make, or garbage truck to make that turn? Isn't it a little sharp? No, very sharp. It would seem more likely it would go.
So how about we either do a sidebar or do
Yeah,
it
we'll
for
sidebar.
everybody?
Just think about it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Was that unanimous?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
What
you.
the hell?
Yes, thank you. Okay, approval of minutes. We've got, we probably do it in one motion. September 21, 2023, special meeting, master plan study, 2023, special meeting, PUD 2023, and September 21, 2023, regular meeting. Nice job, Cheryl. Do we have any comments on minutes, or Joseph?
I was going to move that we approve them, even though I didn't understand from them exactly how to pronounce Marissa.
I'd support that.
I thought they were totally clear. Okay, moved by Joe, supported by John, to approve all the minutes. Any questions or comments on the minutes or motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Minutes approved. Thank you, Cheryl. Public comments? Seeing no public, we'll move on to commissioner staff comments. Start with Joe, and we'll run right down the road.
Gee, I probably talked enough tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Barry?
I want to make one comment, because we went through a few meetings ago and passed a new ordinance dealing with putting, what are those things called? They're not dumpsters, they're.
Shipping containers?
Shipping containers, that's it. Thank you very much, Eric. Shipping containers on lots that are seen from the street, and, you know, right on Drake Road.
Told you.
Oh.
Right on Drake Road, where they used to have a cement mixing, a concrete batch plant.
I just mentioned that 2 hours ago.
Okay. They have count them, three shipping containers just sitting there. I know they're far from the road.
So we're talking about the site that was proposed to be a movie theater at one time on Drake? Okay, yeah.
But they've been there for more than 30 days, so that would kind of fit within the ordinance. And I don't care if it's a city project or not. I think we're supposed to be following the same standards as we require our residents to do. So if they're there for some, nefarious purpose, get rid of them. If they're there for a good purpose, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because they're not supposed to be there. They don't go under ordinance, and we should be the ones that are policing ourselves.
Setting an example.
So, yeah, how can we blame others for doing that when we're allowing it ourselves? But it's not, I understand it's not the city's shipping containers, they belong to the cement guy.
Probably to the contractor.
I didn't notice, maybe you did, Mr. Treppelet, if they took away the porta-johns, are they still there too?
I just saw the turn. He and I just discussed this tonight because I was bringing up the same thing when I
But
walked
I
in.
never saw them before when they had the mixer up there, and all of a sudden, everything disappears and these three containers showed up.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't you give them the same answer you gave me?
Well, we're actually conflating two different projects there. I thought you were referring to the community college project for 696, actually.
No.
Because they are doing
this
some
is-
storage.
This is the same
This
Drake
was
and
the one that
Grand
was used for
Yeah,
Rolling Oaks.
They're two different sites, so this, yeah, I don't know of any justification as to why they'd have shipping containers at the Drake site that I'm aware of. So I guess we'd have to ask them what their intent for putting them out there was and proceed from there.
Well, doesn't their little permit expire on the 31st of October?
Their permit for the batch plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually the engineering department is responsible for finalizing their site cleanup, essentially. So I'd have to inquire as to what's going on out
Winter
there.
storage for next year.
So they got, yeah, so they got 5 days,
They had some sand left over, so they put in a car.
because I drive past it. I live right down the street from that, and John lives not too far away also.
I drive by there all the time, and I look and say, why are those there?
If they put the sprinklers on top, it might be more interesting.
There you go, yeah, with the water sprinklers like they were doing with the dust plow, yeah.
Yeah, look into that, please.
Yep, we can do that.
Now, I did hear today that they want to keep the batch plant.
Najee?
I'm sorry, that's to you.
I don't have much to say. I just will share my excitement. My son got married last weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll start hunting him for grandchildren.
I can't wait for him.
John?
I heard today that Dan's excavating wants to keep the batch plant and the concrete crushing plant at OCC for the next phase of 696. So does that have to come back, or was that?
They have not asked that. Actually, they have signaled the opposite intent to me, that they will be moving to the other side of the roadway at
They
some
don't have
point
any
ultimately here.
They don't have a place yet, that's the problem.
Well, they will not be asking for an approval this next season that I'm aware of. I've spoken with the contractors. That's not their intent, from what I understand.
That was a meeting this morning.
Unless something's changed since we spoke a week or two ago. I don't know.
No,
I
it
can,
did.
I can look further into it.
Yeah,
certainly, but-
it's, I mean, there isn't a lot of vacant space on the north side unless you should get arboretum parking, which isn't used, right now that much. But there isn't a lot of room up there on the north side of the freeway. They've already got a cut for the freeway behind the Comerica Bank onto the freeway for the fire department.
What happened to our race?
There you go, that's a good idea.
Nothing happens that fast.
That was, yeah, I guess that would be pretty fast, huh? I didn't even call for it, but I was just
No,
interested.
I did, and it's a budget process, and they start the budget process, and it has to come
It'll be
by
on the
the
budget
first of the year.
plan.
Yeah, I assume staff will convey to council either through, I mean, you'll be doing a budget for the planning commission, and they'll convey through our minutes what went. Certainly, the council should be aware that we've been kind of tag teaming it with master planning meetings and regular meetings and whatever, and doing a lot of work. Commission's doing a lot of good work for the community, that they should be made aware, and it shouldn't be lost, of the minutes and discussion about that. And I think it's been in place for a while. I think it was in place when I was director, and that's many years ago.
This number, $50?
Yeah, it's been in place.
Yeah, I don't think that number's changed in quite some time.
Yes. So, yes, there's a budget process, and,
So with inflation, we're not even getting minimum wage, then, that's what you're telling me.
but, I mean, we're kind of volunteer appointees, and, but there is a stipend that goes along with it, in the spirit of that. So, but things do increase, so
Yeah, we'll certainly raise it through the budgetary process.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Good. Kristen?
No comment.
Good. Okay. Danielle? Steve?
Eric, that construction at the Chase Bank at Farmington and, well, at 12 Mile and Market, they put in the chargers.
Okay, yeah.
That looks just atrocious.
I drove by that, I was wondering, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, do we need to institute some charger screening requirements perhaps, or, because we only
I mean,
require a
the
2-foot.
chargers themselves don't look bad, but they've got that monster, huge green transformer there.
Right, and technically for commercial property, we don't have screening requirements on those, so that might be something to look at in the ordinance. I can't enforce them screening those, in fact, so.
I mean, it looks, I mean, if they surrounded it by plants or something, but, I mean, between that and the vertical charging stations, it
Yeah.
looks awful.
And it's interesting too, because we require screening in residential districts. When you put up, generators and AC units and things like that, it's a requirement actually that they be screened, but there is no equivalent requirement with respect to commercial or industrial property in the city, and you'll see that most mechanical is not.
Normally, they're right next to the building and not sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
They put that transformer for the chargers right there, and I'm amazed it's not a public safety issue, because you know, if a car hits that, it's not that far from the roadway. If a car hits that,
Yeah.
the charging stations will move, that transformer will not. I mean,
Right.
and it looks awful.
It was sitting for,
It was
yeah,
the color.
we're good.
Hey, Steve?
I think we can
Notice how they
address the
cut down
aesthetics.
all the
certainly, but-
trees behind the Heartland Market?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Every pine, there's gotta be 3 dozen pine trees gone.
And that's probably a public safety improvement because
Yeah.
Couldn't say, right.
Well,
it's hairy sometimes coming out of Heartland.
But the question is, did they get a tree removal permit?
no, those trees are on the site plan. And there's current enforcement actions ongoing with that particular property, so.
I'm sorry, current what?
There's currently enforcement action, being pursued with that
For
property.
the cutting of the trees?
Those trees are on the site plan.
They're required on the site.
Yes, that's why I took pictures and sent them in. Okay.
Other than that, I'm good.
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Moved by
Barry.
John
Barry.
and supported by Danielle. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.